what I'm going to do is, oh yes, I will come back to that in a minute. What I'm going to do over these 6 weeks is I've gone into areas that I feel have really helped me ground myself when it comes to putting what I do out into the world. Some of the weeks might feel more relevant to you than others, but I have done this. Sorry, I have done this. I've gone deep into what has been my sort of foundation building blocks, and I really, really hope that
Okay.
it helps. Okay. So, a little bit of housekeeping. The sessions are being recorded. I hope that's okay. Obviously, they will be sent to you. There are a lot of people here that are working full time or can't join us, so they're going to work from the recordings. So we've got our recordings. The session theme is probably going to last about half an hour, something like that. And then afterwards, there's room for questions and answers. What I don't want to do is wang on. And I want you all to be able to ask questions and then kind of go off when you feel ready. Okay. Your workbook and your recording is going to be sent to you. Now, I have done a couple of courses recently, and what I found massively helpful is to listen to that recording again as I'm working. So just use it as a bit of a podcast because sometimes, I did one recently. I must have listened to it about 8 times because it was so helpful, and it just sort of puts me back on my tram lines, I guess. The first thing I want to do is reassure you that where we are today, whether you're starting your journey or you're in your journey, where you are today is absolutely perfect. There is no rush. There is no rush. There's just a really wonderful way of life, seeing a return for that which you make, waiting actually for all of us. So my outline of the next 6 weeks are as follows. These are, you don't need to write these down, but this is what I've chosen for all of us. Number one is where am I today? We're going to nail down exactly where we are today, where we sit in the sphere of making work. Week two is what can earn. And now that isn't what can I earn, what can earn. What have we got around us? What have we got in our studios that we can take to market and make work, get a return from today? Week three is pricing without panic. So we're going to be pricing, looking at our systems, looking at our values, looking at pricing, how we price our work out into the world. Week four is selling without shouting. So it's about we're going to be doing exactly that. Week five is creating our rhythm, looking at the seasons of making, seasons of selling. And week six is going to be sealing our learning and next steps. So those are the kind of headers that I've given us. Okay, quietly earning. What is quietly earning? Quietly earning is about opening channels for the world to give us a return for what we make without forcing it. Okay, so I thought it'd be really, really handy, really good to go back, go way, 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 way back to the history of all of us makers. And that goes back 65,000 years ago when we decided to use some tools to decorate our caves with. We started by drawing pictures on our cave walls for two reasons. One of which because it was lovely to live with. The second is because it was a great appreciation of the world around us. There was no commerce, there was just an at oneness with that which we were representing on the cave walls. So the animals, nature around us. We wanted to express our gratitude and our oneness with those subjects by putting them on our wall, living with them, drawing with them, expressing them. That is the essence of making. That's before commerce. Nobody said, "Oh, that's brilliant. Will you come over to my cave? Can you make me one of those?" It was about appreciation and absolute oneness of what we were drawing, what we were making. From there on, we began making functional items. So our artistry, there actually wasn't such a thing as artistry, it was about functional decorative art, functional decorative items that we used as humans. So ceramics, pottery, they were beautifully made. Sometimes they talked about ritual or religion, but again, they were functional. So we've got our cavemen, we've got our cave women, we've got the Neanderthals that are appreciating the world around us. Then we learnt to make things that made our lives easier. Okay, so that was the next stage of our history. Come the Renaissance in the 14th and 17th century, we became artists. And artists were elevated in society. Unfortunately, mostly men, but there were female artists that made beautiful work. But that came along the artist, the artist either working in the garret or the artist that was given the commission by the big family to elevate their status. And their skill became better. What they painted became a bit more realistic, and artistry itself was born. Okay. So post the Renaissance, we've had an explosion of anything that goes. Modern art. We've had an absolute explosion of, I mean, you name it, any type of modern art, from the urinal, anything goes. And yes, it creates shock and people are outraged and all the rest of it, but it's still standing. So that is the kind of potted history of us as makers through the ages. And I think it's really, really important to kind of go back to that, because actually I think it sort of illustrates a simple exchange. Go right back to the cave people. Why did they feel that they wanted to make these marks of the world around us? Because they wanted to. That was it. It made them feel better. They wanted to. So today, anything goes. I mean, anything. We have an absolutely open playing field. We have the ability to work part-time, full-time, hobbies, designers, makers, everyone's welcome. And the internet has completely leveled our playing field. And that is amazing. It's incredible to think we have as much room on the screen as John Lewis does. We have as many screen pixels as Saatchi art. We have a level playing field. The downside of that, I feel, is that we massively overthink. Confusion and feelings of being lost at sea and the dreaded comparisonitis is huge. And I really, really, really get that. It's so it's a kind of, if somebody was going to write a recipe for how do you want to feel a bit shit about yourself, it would be, well, it would be this. So I'm going to ask you, I did something which really helped me a year or two ago. I want to just entertain the idea of retraining your algorithm online. Okay, so I followed all my favorite artists, I followed them all, and I didn't get a warm feeling from scrolling. I was looking at their work going, oh, that's so good. Oh, that colour's amazing. Oh, I wonder if I did that. Oh, and my thoughts would spiral off. So I wasn't getting the kind of warm feeling. I was getting a feeling of my work isn't enough. I don't know what I'm doing. It just began to unnerve me. I noticed that. That's the most important thing. I noticed it. And then I retrained my algorithm on purpose with rescue horses, puppies, kittens, home interior design, anything that I felt would give me a glow. And then I consciously went to my favorite artists to have a look when I wanted to. And I just wanted to share that with you because I think it really does help. If you're doused in beautiful creativity from multiple artists when you go online, there's going to be a part of you in your brain that says, oh my God, stop, 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 stop. Whereas if you're looking at, a knackered old horse in somewhere that's now living its best life, having arrived looking pretty not great, and it's living its best life in Spain now, you've got a dose of dopamine right there. So it is possible to change your algorithm and think about the information you're taking in manually. Okay. So I think that's really, really important. So that's my little potted history of kind of our wider story of artistry, if you like. And now this session now is we are going to start thinking about what sort of artist you are. Okay. And I really thought hard about putting this in because 30 years I've been going now. And I remember somebody saying to me a long time ago, it was a gallery actually, and said, "Oh, Samantha, you are a highly quality decorative artist." And I thought, I am bloody not. How dare you? I was so offended. I was like, I'm a fine artist. I am not. I was really like quite shocked that this person had sort of put me in that hole. And I was quite blown away by it. Over the years, I can see exactly what they were talking about. And that's what we're going to be covering. That's the meat and two bones of this week's session. So I'm going to take you through the definitions of the different types of artistry. Okay, so, and because I didn't want you to lose you with fanning around with slides and all the rest of it, I'm going old school with photos. First up, we're going to be looking at fine artists. And here we have the one and only Jackson Pollock. Okay. So when we look at the different types of artists, we're going to be looking at these different four: fine artists, commercial artists, applied artists, and craft artists. Okay, they're all as important as each other, but we're going to be looking at those four areas. And then in our workbook through the week, we're going to be defining where we feel most comfortable. Okay. So first and foremost, fine artists, i.e. Jackson Pollock, and you name any fine artist you want. But by definition, a fine artistry is that it's all about the intent. We're going to come back to the intent again and again. When you're making a work, what is your intent? What is your intention? So your fine artists are all about making work, making art for art's sake. They are exploring, they're expressing ideas, they're putting their emotions on canvas. They are not so interested in selling and more making in the moment. Or perhaps they are responding to something that's going on in the world. So they are taking all their emotions, they're taking everything, they're putting it on the canvas to explore. That is a general definition of fine art and fine artists. Okay, so thank you, Jackson Pollock. That's great. Then we've got commercial artists, and here we have Andy Warhol. A commercial artist, and Andy was an amazing commercial artist. A commercial artist is making work to sell and have somebody else live with it. There, it's sort of decorative, it's complementary. They are considering the user whilst they're making the work. They make to commission, e.g., perhaps a certain palette, dimension, brief. 100% extreme, if you like, commercial artists are graphic designers, interior designers, illustrators, and their work is made to, with the client in mind. It's 100% working to a brief, professional art workers. Andy was an absolute god at that. He took everyday subjects, he made prints, he had his art factory. It was all set up to sell. Okay, so that is a commercial artist. Now, what you're going to see when we've gone through all of this is that there are blends, and that's absolutely okay. There are blends. Now, very close to commercial artists, very close to commercial artists, are applied artists. And you might know this person because that's me. An applied artist is close to a commercial artist. An applied artist is somebody who takes practical function with existing skill. So they are still making to sell, but they're perhaps making more individual things rather than Andy's factory, or taking it to sort of mass market. Then work might be taken up by mass market by way of licensing or whatever, but they're more independent makers um, who make who bear in mind to make work that's aesthetically pleasing. They're going to make work that would look not. I mean, I have been called in the past the queen of the downstairs loo, which I'm very proud of. People like my work to hang in certain areas of the house, particularly when I was doing all the figurative work. The downstairs loo was my domain. So an applied artist is about making beautiful, visually appealing, useful pieces. Um, and they tend to do well in things like artisan markets. They tend to do well as sort of sold as one off or made into a wider collection. This type of artist, the applied artist, often works to commissions too. So they often get somebody saying, "Oh, I really like that. Can you make me one, but put this dog in it?" So that works really, really well. They're almost quite simple. I mean, they have links to commercial artists, but we'll cover that a bit later. So we've done fine artists, commercial artists, applied artists, and then we have craft artists. And here we have William Morris. Who doesn't love a bit of William Morris? So William Morris was an artist in the 18th century. I'm checking my history here. And he made wallpaper. He was all about sort of fact handmade items. A craft artist, let me just regroup. A craft artist makes functional, decorative objects. Now, often what the craft artist has is a deep knowledge of a traditional skill, a deep knowledge. So woodworking, jewelry, weaving, sewing, ceramics, glass blowing. They're manual arts. They're manual arts. And printmaking is an interesting thing because traditionally printmaking is a craft, but that can blend with fine art because the fine artist is bringing all their thinking to it, traditional skill. So again, we'll come back to that. But I think in your workbooks, I've done a dictionary definition of the four. Okay. And I just think when we are looking at our artists, when we're looking at our type of artistry, we get to kind of identify which harbour to take our boat in, which harbour is best going to feed us. So if you're a fine artist, you probably want to link up with galleries, bursaries, grants. Your channel to kind of making, existing and earning is different to an applied artist, which perhaps is slightly more about functional in terms of selling, going to a fair, meeting people, getting commissions, concentrating on mailing lists. That's quite a different way of finding where our watering holes are. So that is basically where we're going to be looking at in terms of our workbooks. The workbooks that we've got are going to help us identify where we sit. And actually, I think when you know your type of artistry, when that guy said to me, "You're a highly qualified decorative designer," I was partly offended because I hadn't entertained these different channels before. I'd never had it spelled out to me. But actually, as the years went on and I became friends with that, it really helped me define, and particularly with the research channels that we have to our hands online now, we can deep dive into where we most will find return for that which we are. Okay, so I just want to ask at the moment if anybody's got any questions. Um, anybody's got any questions, or anybody that's a bit unsure of where we are in terms of our journey and how it might help us. Here we are. Yeah, we are the ones that make the world go round. You're right. Okay. Well, this is fantastic. So once we've got an answer to those questions, we're going to be thinking about, where am I today? What's my blend? Where do I fit in? Because obviously, if you decide to take a stand at a fair, at Frieze Art Fair, or you marry up with a gallery to go to Frieze Art Fair, which is very highbrow fine art, you're going to get a very different you're going to get a very different response to if you took a stand at Country Living Fair in London. Yeah. So this is all about where our watering holes and beginning to identify where we fit. I've got a question here. Where does portraiture fit? That's a brilliant question. So we were going to talk about those blends. Portraiture, I would think it's quite a craft because it's steeped in tradition, and you have to know your technique. You have to know your skill well to do it properly. But then I think also applied, because it's individual, it's also functional, and also commercial because you have to get the orders in. But I would say less commercial. So in our workbook, there are some questions that I've asked, and it's all about identifying your sort of key area, your secondary area, and then with a dash of da 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 da. So I would say portraiture, um, craft and applied, I would think. And there's something so liberating about knowing where you fit, because then you can sally off online and think, okay, so where can I find shows that are good for applied artists? And if you're not sure about that term applied artist, that's fine. Just chunk it into Google, see what else it comes back with. Or so much of our research now is helpful. So you can lose yourself down the rabbit holes. And also, when we talk about where are my watering holes for finding inspiration, well, you may not spend a long time looking on Pinterest if you're a high fine artist. If you're a high fine artist, which is absolutely about the thinking, the project, the response to, your watering hole is likely to be very different to somebody who's a commercial artist. And that's absolutely a-okay. So we're manually taking these things and splitting them up. So we're defining our area. The other thing is, we talked about watering holes of inspiration. Now, I want you to think in terms of pre-internet magazines, old school magazines. They're a really good indicator of feedback, immediate feedback for our areas. So, for craft artists, you might be looking at Woodworker magazine. You might be looking at these sort of specialized areas. For fine artists, you might be looking at Aesthetica or very, very different. I mean, I'm far away from a fine artist, so I don't really know those words, that world. I have lots and lots of friends that work in it, and I absolutely take my hat off to them because the majority of their jobs come from grants and big bids that take a long time to apply for. When they come in, they're good, but my God, they don't have it easy, you know. So, any more questions on this one? Because as I say, what I don't want to do is kind of wang on. The workbook will do the heavy lifting. Some weeks, some of these sessions will be longer than the others. What I want to do is give you a dollop of something to think about through the week ahead. Oh, I love that. I love that, Rebecca. Rebecca's written as artist by definition, we all hate being put in boxes. So this feels uncomfortable, but I get the need for it. I love that response and thank you for your honesty because I was so offended when I was termed that sort of, highly qualified decorative artist. And it really stuck in my throat. You're so right. I did not want to be put in a box. However, when I recognize that box myself, because we are never going to be saying in our bios and our websites, "Hi, I'm Samantha Barnes and I'm an applied stroke commercial artist." Clients won't get it. They don't need to know. They just, it's about you. It's about identifying your watering holes and identifying where you might find like-minded souls in terms of buyers, in terms of friends and artists. I'm struggling to see, well, I know it's definitely a blend at the moment. I absolutely get that. We are all a blend. We are all a blend. So I'm going to, as I say, I've shared that I'm primarily an applied artist with a commercial after. So my skill's brilliant. My skill's good. I've been doing it for a long time. But when it's about intent, don't think about your work. It's about your intent. What do you want when you're making your work? Personally, my intent is I want the freedom to make the work I want, but I want paid for it because that is sustainable. That's what allows me to make the next about amount of work. The next batch of work is because I've sold that one. Yeah. So it's again, bring it back to your intent when making. Okay. Do I cover anything on Instagram as struggling? Oh, I can do, darling. Absolutely. We're going to be talking about, yeah, we can have a quick chat about that. We've got some time and think of it rather as a cash stream than a box. Yes. Excellent. 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 But again, just to finish up on our artisan placement, orientation. Let's call it orientation. We're not talking boxes. We're not talking anything, fields, niches, any of that bollocks. We're talking about orientation, and that is down to our intent. So your workbook will help, and I'll be sending that on this afternoon. So I was told only to follow artists on the algorithm for the algorithm. Um, that's a really good question. Only to follow. Caroline, when you say you were only told to follow artists for the algorithm, is that because you were hoping that the algorithm would deliver you to other artists, or you would somehow be in? Do you want to come on and just not a problem if you don't? Is she there? Can't see you, darling. Oh well, anyway, I was told to only follow artists on the algorithm. I think you can change the algorithm to anything that you want. As I say, I bought mine to rescue horses, puppies, just something that would feed me. I think in terms of your socials, what you're taking in is very simple. It's like the Marie Kondo. Does it bring you joy? Does it bring you joy? Are you enjoying what it is you're watching? Does it bring you joy? If it's not, bin it. You can not unfollow, you can mute just by looking up something like vintage caravans. It's spooky. It's the way forward. But just looking at vintage caravans, your algorithm will begin to change to deliver more vintage caravans. So changing your algorithm is just purely about saying, I think I'll look at a vintage caravan now. Okay. Yes. So have we got any more questions, Rebecca, darling? Anything? Yeah. Have we got any more questions? This is a soft start. This is about where we are today. Think back to why we made work in the first place. We made work to represent that which we are at one with. We made pictures to go on our cave wall that brought us comfort. Whiz forward through all the different incarnations, and we are left with a wide open playing field to make anything that we want. And that, by definition, is really, really daunting. Really, really daunting. So by spending some time thinking about our orientation, it kind of just helps us mentally pick our corner of the world in our own heads. And it's only for us, it's not for anybody else. And it will change and it will blend. That's why it's called Where Am I Today? Because I think once we discover where we are today, I get so much comfort from knowing where I am as an artist. I get so much comfort from knowing what's relevant to me, what isn't. And I really, really want that too, because it's an anchoring. It's kind of you sticking you know, sticking your little corner in the world and saying, I'm here and I'm really comfortable here and this is where I'm great. And then doors begin to open naturally. Okay. Anyone got any more questions? Anyone got any more questions? Okay. I've come to art late in life, so along with everything else, I need to work out what I can do. Okay, well, that's fine, sweetheart. It's all about trial and error. It's all about trial and error, making something, taking something to market, taking a market stand. What do you get feedback on? What do people ask you to make? What have you made as gifts that people comment on? What the sort of feedback of people. I'm not just talking about your mum who will say, oh, that's very nice, darling. My mum does. That's very nice, darling. Now what is it? So mums are probably not the best person to ask, but what do people, I think it's so simple, really. It's just making a start, making, getting the feedback, making something else. It's never too late to join, ever, 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 ever. In fact, when you come to work making artwork later, you have so many benefits. You have so many benefits. And we'll be talking about that in, further courses down the line. We'll be talking about your backstory and how important that is to the work that you make today. We'll be talking about, not positioning, but I think it all starts with this orientation of being here right now. Okay. Excellent. I made some cards and notebooks, blown away with the fact. Yes, yes, yes. Brilliant, Denise. That's it. I made some cards and notebooks and was blown away by the fact that people like them and buy them. Well, you are completely off there. You are completely off. So what are you going to make next? You don't need to go and order 500 of them. Because you're going to probably want to introduce new notebooks that you're making. So it's okay to run out of something. If you have 25 notebooks left, and you order 25, you sell 25, and then you say, I haven't got any left. But then Mrs. Brown comes along and says, oh, I really wanted those. It's okay for you to say, oh, I'm really sorry. The amount of times that I've sort of said, oh, okay, I'll have one more printed for you. and then I'm off, and then I'll spend a morning ordering one notebook, and then I've got to take it to the post office, and I'm thinking, what am I doing that for? It's okay. When you make new notebooks, they'll want more notebooks. But that's excellent. That's a really, really good start. Well done. Anybody else got anything they want to ask? I love the task. Sometimes feeling out of your comfort zone allows one to reflect and widen our perspective. Yeah, that's so true. Can you talk a bit about how you have had to change the way you present yourself due to technology? Hi. Yes, absolutely. Do you know, it's really interesting. When I started in the 1990s, there was no internet. There was no internet, and still we had shows, and still people came. We would put posters up on the lamppost, photocopied because they were only 6p a copy or something, and people would come. The techniques were slightly different. We'd have a big open studio, we'd serve cheap, warm wine and hope that the checkbooks would come out, and they always did. So the money we were made would go on and allow us to make the next thing, do the next show. Then the internet came along, and obviously, we've spent a long time learning how to use the tech. People, the receivers and the givers, we've spent a long time learning it. And personally, I think we're all at a really good point now. COVID hammered home the point that if we wanted to see our families, we needed to come here onto Zoom. Facebook, tech, people are very comfortable with tech. So the next thing is how you feel comfortable being on the tech yourself and holding meetings, showing up, broadcasting yourself, I suppose. And it's not easy. It's not something that we all like doing. There are things that we don't like about ourselves, and we can get ourselves tied up in knots about it. But here's two things that I've learned. Number one is that people really quite like a mistake. It makes you human. And number two, nobody wants to see a polished version of you. They really don't. They just want to see you doing something you love. That's all. It can be a very honest place. I think, and it's probably all about what you project. If you're honest to yourself and you're honest and you put out genuine stuff, you're going to reflect and get genuine people interested in you. I think I'm not going to bang on too much about this, but I think our mailing list is everything as makers. Now, when I say our mailing list, I'm not talking about hundreds of people. I'm talking about when you meet somebody at a fair and you say, oh, I've got this event coming up, even if you haven't. I've got this event coming up. Would it be okay to send you an invitation? And you take their name, their surname, their email address. If they give you that, that is the highest handshake you can have. That is the most beautiful, more than buying a piece of work. If somebody says to you, yeah, okay, I'm interested enough, I want to keep in touch, I'd like to know what you're up to, that's a massive compliment. If I go to a show, and I have over the years done shows where I've sold nothing and stood there looking, trying to look cheerful, but, inside dying a bit. If I come away with 12 to 15 people on my mailing list, it's still a successful show. Okay, so your mailing list is everything. So I think what I'm trying to say is that the tech, the ability to broadcast ourselves now is such a gift for artists, but it's also something that's really worthwhile learning about, doing some courses on. Watching a 5-minute YouTube video on taking photographs of your work for, sort of social media posts. It's so worth spending a little bit of time investing and researching because it is a gift, absolute gift to us makers. Does anyone sell on Etsy? Is it too competitive? Really good question. Etsy really has its place. I buy off Etsy. I love the independent makers there. I think it's a great place to start. Yes, it is crowded, but if you're only relying on Etsy to show your work to sell, then it's a crowded market. But if you're doing your own kind of promotion alongside it, i.e., you've got some little cards made if you're at a fair, or you go to a cafe and you stick it up on the wall and you're sending people there kind of manually yourself, it's no different to any other platform like my website on Squarespace. So just don't rely on Etsy to do all the work. You have to be pushing there, encouraging people over there as well. Hopefully that makes sense. I struggle with the switch from going from being a graphic designer to creating as an artist, not thinking this is commercial enough. Okay, is this commercial enough? I seem to have sold paintings without being there at all, which is great, but I feel like I'm a hoax. This title, a highly decorative designer, ticks my box. Yay! I love that. I love that. I love that because it means that you're getting to know yourself as a maker. Later in the week, we're going to be talking about our backstory, and the switch from going from a graphic designer to creating artist is, can I swear? I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to. It's fucking brilliant. Excuse my language. It's great because it shows that your history, you've got lived history. You've got lived history looking at things as a designer. People love artists that have come from a different industry. They love them, whether they're art related or they're not. Our backstory is all part of our where we are now, what we're presenting, or what we choose to put on the canvas, or what we choose to make. So never, ever, 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 ever be worried about coming to it late and feeling like your backstory and your today story aren't connected, because they absolutely are. Okay. So these individual pieces that you make, I'd love to see. I'd love to see, Asha. But I love the fact you say your works is sold without you being there. I love that as well, because we do not need to be there to sell our work. We just don't. We don't have to persuade anybody to buy it. It's all in the buyer's journey. And in actual fact, having an artist there is quite often a drawback, because as much as some galleries say, oh, they want to meet the artist, yeah, they do. But ultimately, it's about their own relationship with the piece of work on the wall or the piece of work that's selling. They have their own connection to it, and it's perfectly okay for the artist to back out. So do not be worried about putting work up in cafes or galleries. This is all part of the quietly earning channel that will be summing up in week 5 and 6. These channels that we put out into the world allow for the world to give us feedback. We don't necessarily have to get involved. We just have to open the channel of having the work out there with a chance. So Etsy, really lovely cafes, restaurants, shows, online socials. These are all really lovely channels. Saatchi Art, Facebook, eBay. I know artists that sell work on eBay really successfully. So these are all just channels that if we open ourselves up, we allow a fluid connection to happen, can be quietly earning for us. Were there any particular moments in your career where you accelerated your income? That's a really, really interesting question. I try, I purposely try. I quite often, again, pricing without panic will be covering this. But again, because this is all a share from me, I quite often get told that I don't charge enough for my work. I quite often get told by people, friends, that I just don't charge enough for it. Now, here's the thing. When I have gone up in the past and I've sold work for more money, it's lovely, but I don't tend to get the fluidity of sales. I've now nailed my pricing so well that I enjoy business, I enjoy sales, I enjoy making something, selling something, gathering in the money, to then make something else. And the pricing structure that I have really allows that to happen. Um, so when I have accelerated my prices before, yes, I felt the satisfaction of thinking, oh my God, I sold that piece of work for X amount of money. But then and then I found myself thinking, but I like being at a position where I like being in a position that if people really want to buy something that they can. When I had an art gallery in the 1990s to 94, I had a shop. It was called The Pond in Clapham Common, and we sold about 80 other artists' work. It was an amazing experience. And there was a guy there who I met, and I loved his work. And he made work kind of really well priced. So he would make quite big paintings, and I think they were going for about between £900 and £1,800. They were big paintings. And we sold everything that he had, we sold it. And he was building up a really nice collection of buyers. And over the sort of 3 years, we sold a lot of his work, and it was great. Then he went to another gallery, which was absolutely fine. We knew that he would. And they started really elevating his prices. So on the one hand, it was like, oh my God, go you. You know, you're selling so well. But within a year, he was selling big canvases for sort of 16 to £20,000, which on the one hand, we were delighted and pleased for him. On the other hand, he wasn't selling so much work, you know. Then a year or 2 years later, the gallery that he was with folded, and he was stuck with his work being 16 to 20 grand. He couldn't come down. So, you know, I think that's a really, really good example of that when your work does get inflated to a price that, you know, is great, is lovely when it sells, but if you're doing yourself out of your market, then that's as bad a problem as not selling at all. Does that make sense? So yeah, so my work I feel so comfortably priced at because I feel like if somebody really, really wants something, they can make it happen. Also, a bit of a North Star of mine is could I afford it myself? If I really, really wanted something, could I afford it myself? So that's just a personal North Star for me. So where do we go? You're so right about your book backstory. I've been a professional artist for 6 years, and it's taken me at least 5 years to appreciate that my backstory as a geography teacher and charity fundraiser is relevant to understanding what people hear and understand. Yes, brilliant, 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 Nancy. It's so important. It's sold it's all without the work being out there in the world, just word of mouth. Oh my God, how exciting. Friends popping up around, which gives me some confidence. Then I go back into my shell. Can I do this? So this course is such a great start for me. I am so happy. I'm so happy to do this. And let me tell you, yes, you absolutely can do this. There is so much room in the world for your work. And I don't say that lightly. I know I hear myself saying it, but I really, really mean it. Our world needs art. It needs art. We have no idea how our work touches people who see it on a daily basis. Somebody who's crapping themselves going into the dentist sees one of your paintings, feels relaxed, calm, puts them in a different mind space. Somebody who sees your painting or your design on a notebook in a stationery store and it reminds them actually they really want to go to the south of France themselves. We have no idea how our work touches other people. We just have to hold the faith and make it and take that feedback when it comes, because it will. People will write to you and say, oh, Samantha, I saw your work in da 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 da, and there is nothing like it. It's such a joyous thing. When somebody gives you a compliment like that or writes you a letter like that, the temptation is to go, oh, that was nice, put it away, put it away. No, 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 we're British. Print it out and keep it, stick it in a file. Okay. If anyone's interested in joining this course, a WhatsApp group for this course, so we can carry on the conversation. Oh, okay. If you want to, darlings, that's fine. Um, well done, everyone. I'm I'm so pleased to see you here, and I'm so pleased to make this start. Now, as I said, I haven't run this course before, so I am open to feedback. If anything, that we've obviously got quite a way to go, and that's brilliant. I think the idea of listening again as you're working is really nice because things pop up. Keep your notebook handy. Your workbook will be coming along, and each week we'll be covering a different sphere, and you'll be given extra tasks. But what I want for you is for you to take yours your work. What am I trying to say? What I want for you, what is the same as what I want for me, and that is the for us to allow the feedback of the world and the clients and the customers and the monetary value, for us to allow that to be the exchange that it wants to be. It's all just energy, I think. It is all just energy. And so much of it is in our minds. We tell ourselves all these stories. I can't do this. I can do that. I can't do this. I was never able to, da, 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 da. Just notice, just catch yourself when you're saying that and be open to the fact that none of us have a Scooby of what's coming next. None of us. You have, as art, particularly as artists, makers, and creators, we have not got a clue who's going to ring us this afternoon and say, "Oh, that exhibition you applied for 4 years ago? Would you like a space?" That is so much of our industry works in this way. I really, really, really have loved talking to you today. Has anybody else got any more questions? I think we're probably going to leave it there. So that, just to reiterate, today was all about where am I today? And this is for our own personal orientation. It's not for anybody else. It's just for our orientation. Where do I fit in? What are my watering holes for finding inspiration? Where can I find like-minded souls? Now, that's in terms of buyers and in terms of friends and family. As I say, there is so much room in the world for your work. We need it. We absolutely need it. Please get on with making. Please just don't listen to the negative voices in your head. Just don't. Just get on and make. And then we can get out and sell it. Okay, my darlings? I think you all completely rock. And yes, we are all absolutely brilliant. Let's be honest, we really are. We need art in the world. Okay, my angels, thank you so much. Lots and lots of love. This will be sent to you. The recording will be sent to you with the workbook, okay, this afternoon. Love you all. See you next week. Bye. Oh.